For internal control purposes, businesses usually pay expenses by writing checks, but sometimes there isn't enough time to request a check, or either it just isn't practical to write a check for very small amounts of money. For this reason, companies will set up petty cash funds. When a company sets up a petty cash account, they will appoint a custodian to oversee the account. The custodian will be the only person with access to the petty cash funds. Let's look at exercise 6-4 on page 250. In this exercise, Donna Martin is a design engineer. During June, she incurred the following petty cash transactions. The first thing she did was establish a petty cash fund in the amount of $75. The establishing entry for petty cash is always the same. Debit petty cash for the establishing amount, and you credit cash for the same amount. Okay, and then we'll enter our explanation. What this entry does is we're writing a check to the custodian for $75. The custodian will then go to the bank and cash the check, and she will have $75 in her petty cash account. That is reflected in this account here, petty cash. Okay, next, of course, if you have petty cash, more than likely it's being spent, and in this transaction it says she's replenishing the fund for expenditures as follows: postage, office supplies, design supplies expense, and miscellaneous expense. So when you replenish the funds, that means that she's probably low on petty cash and it's time to request another check. So to do that, you have to debit everywhere you spent the previous funds. So it says she spent for postage $17, and then for office supplies she spent $14, and then for design supplies expense she spent $20, and for miscellaneous expense she spent $15.50. Okay, so she has spent the total of $66.50 out of petty cash, and now she is requesting another check to replenish the $66.50 that she spent. So the explanation will be to replenish petty cash. Okay, typically there are two types of entries involving petty cash. One is to establish. This entry is done one time and one time only to set the fund up. The other entry is to replenish the petty cash fund, and in this entry you're debiting everywhere you spent the petty cash funds, and then you're crediting cash for the total. Okay, notice that petty cash is not debited or credited in the replenishing entry. So let's take a look at C. Okay, so Donna has decided that the $75 that she initially set up was for not enough money. So she is going to increase her fund, and to do that, all we will do is debit petty cash by the amount that she wants to increase the fund, an additional $50, and we'll credit cash for $50, and our explanation will just be to increase the petty cash fund. Okay, so we're writing her another check for $50, and she'll cash that, and add it to the petty cash that she already has. So now her petty cash total will be $125.